Think about your earliest memory. Not yesterday, not last year, your very first memory. Maybe you're 4 years old. You're standing in your grandmother's kitchen. The smell of fresh bread fills the room. Someone laughs. Sunlight pours through the window. You can see every detail, the colors, the voices, even the way you felt. Now let me ask you something. What if that memory never happened? Not just a small detail, the entire memory. What if your brain created it and you've believed it your entire life? That sounds impossible. After all, a memory is supposed to be proof that something happened, right? But here's the strange part. Psychologists have spent decades studying memory, and they've discovered something deeply unsettling. Your brain doesn't store memories the way your phone stores photos. It doesn't record your life, it rebuilds it every single time. Which means that somewhere inside your mind, there may be moments you remember with absolute certainty that never actually happened. And the most disturbing part, you have no reliable way of telling which ones they are. Imagine your best friend tells you about a vacation you supposedly took together when you were 6 years old. They describe the beach, the hotel, the ice cream you dropped. Your parents confirm the story. They even show you pictures. At first, you don't remember anything. But weeks later, something changes. Tiny flashes begin appearing. You suddenly remember the sand, the sound of the waves, the feeling of crying after dropping the ice cream. Except, none of it happened. The vacation was real, but the ice cream story was completely invented. Yet somehow, your brain built an entire memory around it. And today, you'd swear it actually happened. How is that possible? Because the biggest misconception we have about memory is believing that remembering means replaying. It doesn't. Memory isn't playback. Memory is reconstruction. Every time you remember something, your brain isn't opening an old recording. It's rebuilding the experience from scattered pieces, like putting together a puzzle without looking at the picture on the box. Most of the time, it gets surprisingly close, but sometimes it fills the missing pieces with educated guesses. And that's where things become fascinating, because your brain doesn't actually care about preserving the past perfectly. It cares about something much more important: keeping your story consistent. Think about reading a book you haven't opened in years. When you finally read it again, you don't remember every sentence. You remember the story. Your brain works exactly the same way. It stores meaning, not perfect detail. The exact color of someone's shirt? Probably gone. The precise words they used? Usually gone. The lesson you learned? That stays. Which sounds efficient, until you realize what your brain does with the missing information. It invents it. Not intentionally, not maliciously, automatically. Every time you remember something, your brain quietly asks itself a question. What probably happened here? And then it writes the answer without asking your permission. That's why two siblings can remember the exact same birthday completely differently. One remembers laughing, the other remembers crying. One remembers sunshine, the other remembers rain. Someone is wrong. Sometimes, everyone is. Because memory isn't about accuracy, it's about reconstruction. And every reconstruction changes the memory just a little. Imagine opening the same document on your computer every day. Each time, you accidentally change one word before saving it again. Then another, then another. After 10 years, the document still looks familiar, but it's no longer the original. Your memories work the same way. Every time you remember them, you edit them, even if you don't realize you're doing it. And that's when scientists began asking an unsettling question. If remembering changes memories, could someone remember something that never happened at all? If that idea sounds unbelievable, you're not alone. For centuries, people assumed memory worked like a video camera. You either remembered something or you didn't. There wasn't supposed to be a middle ground. Then psychologists started asking a dangerous question. What if memory could be edited? Not by surgery, not by medication, just by talking. One of the most influential researchers in this field, psychologist Elizabeth Loftus, spent decades studying how memories can change. Her work showed something remarkable. If people repeatedly hear a convincing story, especially from someone they trust, some begin to remember events that never actually happened. One famous example involved a simple childhood story. Participants were told that when they were young, they had become lost in a shopping mall. The story included believable details. An older person had helped them. Eventually, they were reunited with their family. For some participants, the event was completely fictional. Yet after hearing the story several times, many didn't just believe it, they began adding new details of their own. They described the stores, the fear they felt, the stranger's face, even conversations that had never taken place. The memory wasn't copied from someone else. Their own brain built it, piece by piece, until it felt just as real as a genuine childhood experience. Think about that. Your brain doesn't simply store information. It tries to make sense of it. And sometimes, making sense is more important than being perfectly accurate. Because uncertainty is uncomfortable. A complete story feels better than an incomplete one. So your mind quietly fills the gaps, not to deceive you, but to help you understand your past. The strange part is, this doesn't just happen in psychology laboratories. It happens every day. Have you ever argued with a friend about something you both experienced? You remember one version, they remember another. Both of you are completely convinced you're right. Neither of you is lying. You're simply remembering different reconstructions. Because every time you recall a memory, you don't take it off a shelf, you rebuild it. And every rebuild creates an opportunity for change. Maybe a new detail slips in. Maybe an old detail disappears. Maybe an emotion becomes stronger than it originally was. It's a little like making a photocopy of another photocopy of another photocopy. The image still looks familiar, but tiny imperfections slowly accumulate. Over years or decades, those tiny changes can become surprisingly large. This explains something almost everyone has experienced. Have you ever told the same story so many times that you're no longer sure which parts you truly remember and which parts came from telling the story itself? Maybe you exaggerated one funny moment, added one dramatic detail, simplified another. Each version felt harmless, until eventually the edited version became your memory. Not because you chose to lie, but because your brain accepted the newest version as the truth. This process has a name. It's called memory reconsolidation. Every time a memory is recalled, it briefly becomes flexible again. During that short window, the memory can be updated before it's stored once more. Think of wet cement. Once it hardens, it seems permanent. But every time you remember something, for a brief moment, that cement becomes soft again. And before it hardens, your brain may smooth out the cracks, fill in missing pieces, or reshape parts of the story. Most of the time, Those changes are incredibly small. You'll never notice them, but over a lifetime, those tiny edits can slowly transform the story of your life. Which leads to a much bigger question. If your memories are constantly changing, then what exactly stays the same? Because if the stories that define your past can be rewritten, what does that mean for the person you believe you are? But perhaps the most unsettling discovery isn't that memories can change. It's that your identity depends on them. Think about how you describe yourself. Maybe you say you're confident or shy, funny, careful, independent. Now ask yourself something. How do you know that's true? Because your brain immediately searches for evidence. I remember speaking in front of a crowd. I remember getting rejected. I remember failing. I remember succeeding. Your memories don't just tell you what happened, they tell you who you believe you are. But here's the strange part. If your memories slowly change, then the story you tell yourself changes too. Not overnight, little by little, without you ever noticing. Because your brain isn't trying to preserve the past, it's trying to make sense of it. Every time you remember something, your brain asks a simple question. What does this mean now? Not, what happened exactly? Meaning matters more than precision. That's why two people can live through the exact same moment, yet spend years remembering it differently. The event stayed the same, the meaning didn't. And every time that meaning changes, the memory changes with it. Perhaps that's why memory was never meant to be perfect. Imagine if your brain remembered every conversation, every face, every word, exactly as it happened. Your mind would drown in details. Instead, it keeps the parts that seem important, the lesson, the emotion, the meaning, and quietly lets the rest fade away. Maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe that's exactly what memory was designed to do. Not to replay the past, but to help you navigate the future. Which means every memory you have is part history and part interpretation. And maybe that's the real mystery. You're probably not remembering your childhood the way it happened. You're remembering it through the mind of the person you've become today. The child never changed. You did. And every time you look back, your brain tells the story a little differently. So the next time you're absolutely certain you remember something perfectly, pause for a moment and ask yourself one simple question. Am I remembering the past, or am I remembering the last time I remembered it? Because perhaps the greatest illusion your brain has ever created is convincing you that memory and truth are exactly the same thing. Fade to black.